Untamed. The platform.
Welcome to the podcast. The people, Martin Devlin, Lachlan Moore, iOS, it's only sports. This, the highlights show of today's program, which aired on the platform live between 1 and 4. What is the platform? The platform is independent free media. 9 hours worth of programming every single day. You've got to download the app, the Platform New Zealand, and if you subscribe to Platform Plus, you get a whole lot of extra benefits attached. Sean Plunkett kicks the show off 7 o'clock every morning. Michael Laws 10 till 1. And myself and Lachlan Moore, Martin Devlin, we do 1 till 4. We talk about sport. Bit of basketball on the podcast tonight. Shawn Marion, NBA champ, part owner of the Breakers. He won a chip in 2011 with the Dallas Mavericks. Joined us to give his verdict on whether the Breakers are going to make the playoffs and how he rates the standard of the ANBL. Thoughts also on where the NBA is right now. Speaking basketball, a couple of crazy individual performances yesterday in the NBA. Joel Embiid, 76ers, 70 points for Philadelphia. That's a personal record for anyone that's ever played for that team. And hell, you know, they had Wilt, they had AI, they've had a fair few pretty good players. Karl-Anthony Towns, 62 points for the Timberwolves. But is the NBA any better to watch? Or is this just like T20 cricket entering the National Basketball Association? No defence. Just like take your bat and swat. 150 beats 148. I get a bit bored with it. I like a bit of defence. The Mankad rearing its ugly head again. Why? Because in the Under-19 Cricket World Cup, one of our boys was run out with just 2 runs to get. We're only chasing 91. We were struggling. We got there in the end, but with a couple of runs to go, we were man-catted. Is that legit? Miles Davis will talk about that. Andy Raymond, Unfiltered, will talk about that. And we got a beat reporter, Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquirer, to talk all about the basketball. Let's waste no time. When I say I'm a grumpy man, I'm not really a grumpy man. I'm a grumpy man about some things. As we always start the show. Tablets in hand, I say, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. I am exactly what I am. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
I am a grumpy old man. Yes, when it comes to sport, I am a grumpy old man. I like what I like, and what I like is mostly the old school versions of the pretense that most sports these days are fast becoming. Yesterday in the NBA, Joel Embiid for the 76ers scored 70 points. Karl-Anthony Towns for the Timberwolves, 62. Rah, 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 rah. But is the basketball any better? Is it actually any better? I'd happily debate it's not. 2 games yesterday. Detroit playing the Bucks, 76ers playing the Spurs, 591 points scored combined. 300 per game, 150 beats 148. What that clearly says to me is that no one is playing defence. I like defence in all sports. I don't want to watch Super Rugby where the Blues belt the Rebels 75-48. It's just rubbish sport. The NFL, where you get college football scores, baseball. Every now and again, a 10-8 game is great, but so too is a 1-0 shutout pitching duel. Cricket to me in my generation is more than just some bloke slugging sixes off cafeteria bowling. It's not a home run derby. How about someone tying up one end, or a guy batting all day like Mark Greatbatch did in 1989 to save a test match? Not win it. Save it. Courageous, tenacious, the skill and the concentration and the determination. That's sport. That's as much a part of sport as the glory hunting, big swatting 138 off 22 balls in a T20. Sport to me is life. All the ups and downs, the nuances, the emotions that life brings. It's not all about glittering rose petals. It's also about digging in, doing the hard yards, accepting that things do go wrong, learning and growing from it. Sport is as much about attrition as it is glory-seeking. So no, I'm not a grumpy old man at all. I just like what I like about sport. And unlike the new generation, I actually have an attention span longer than the 10-second dick pic TikTok Instagram.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Sports news headlines.
Yeah, there's not really a lot going around today. I mean, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are sort of the slower news days. Thursdays
Injury
to an
day, we
extent
call it
as
in the
well.
sports news department, don't we?
But there was a bit yesterday, not as much today though. But I'll start off with some league news involving our Warriors. Well, your Warriors, they're not my Warriors. Mm-hmm. They have reportedly entered the race to sign Cronulla Sharks prop Braden Hamlin-Wele. Some people say Uele. I heard from someone that's actually pronounced Wele.
Spelt?
Uele.
Okay, well, I think they're... Okay, Wele, yeah.
Wele, yeah. Mm-hmm. Braden Hamlin-Wele plays for the Sharks. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, the Warriors have offered Hamlin-Wele a 3-year deal worth almost 2.38 million New Zealand dollars from 2025.
Okay, so this is pretty much a direct swap for Fanua Blake, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's not as good as Fanua Blake, and he had a couple of good years not long ago, Hamlin-Wele, from what I remember, but the last year or so, I wouldn't put him anywhere near the same class as Fanua Blake, but okay.
Warriors fans, let us know what you think.
And apparently the Warriors are offering him more than the amount the Sharks tabled to keep him. So the Warriors are actually going to be overpaying. So anyway, the New Zealand under-19 cricketers have withstood a contentious dismissal at the World Cup in South Africa. This was against Afghanistan to win their second win of the tournament in a crazy low-scoring match. They only needed 92 to win, New Zealand. I think they were batting second.
Got there squeaked in.
Liam Lawson has already started his Formula One reserve driver commitments with the soon-to-be-named AlphaTauri team test driving for them in Italy this week. With the soon-to-be renamed, I was going to say, that does make sense. Soon-to-be-named, soon-to-be-renamed AlphaTauri, formerly Toro Rosso for any older F1 fans like myself. For the first time in 5 years, Kiwi snowboarder Zoe Sadowski-Synnott will not be on the podium of the next Games. The 22-year-old has been forced to withdraw from the event in Aspen this weekend due to an ankle injury. She's been rehabilitating since December. Australian Open, more games overnight. Mate, there's a bit of toilet paper floating through the air. Did you see that?
No, where's the outside? What, the window?
Well, yeah, it must be the kids downstairs playing with it. Literally, a roll of toilet paper was just, well, not a roll, but a bit of it was floating through the air.
Well, little puppy Whuppy, he loves toilet rolls.
Oh, mate, dogs love them. They rip them up and tear them to shreds.
What is it about? So what I do is I put a little bit of peanut butter in it, throw it in the freezer. Yeah, occupies him for hours.
But you don't need to put peanut butter in it.
Well, no, he just said a little treaty-weedy.
But it's already a treat giving him the toilet roll.
Matey.
Mate, you're such a sook when it comes to Presley, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, there's no denying.
I was like that with the kids too, mate. I love spoiling them, mate.
Really? Jeez, my dad didn't spoil us.
Oh, he did bloody so, mate. He just paid for you to go to Washington, D.C. in the state for 3 weeks.
He paid for a couple of dinners.
Yeah, okay, right.
Won't lie. Australian Open, some matches on yesterday. Yannick Sinner, 15 sets played, 15-1 so far at the Australian Open. He's won his quarterfinal against, well, I can't call him a Russian because there's no flag next to his name, Andrei Rublev. Straight sets, 6-4, 7-6, 6-3. He hasn't dropped one set yet, has Sinner. As well as that, Novak Djokovic won his matchup with Taylor Fritz. Taylor Fritz was pushing him pretty damn hard early on, but Djokovic pulling through to win that. And the women's singles, Coco Gauff winning. Arena Sabalenka advancing as well. Now they are on a crash course in the semi-final, so it won't be a Coco Gauff Arena Sabalenka final, which I think many of us would love to see. One of them will be knocked out in the semis. In terms of today, it's with all due respect, 4 no-names in the women's draw. 3 of them unseeded. The only seeded woman playing today in the quarterfinals is China's Qinwen Zheng. No one else is seeded. These are no-name players. So this is quite interesting about women's tennis, and it happens every blooming year at a Grand Slam. Just randoms storm through and make the quarters and semis. And the men's draw, Uber Hurkacz up against Daniil Medvedev. That's one quarterfinal that gets underway at 3:30. Alexander Zverev and Carlos Alcaraz. That'll be a great match. That's on at 10:30. And that's pretty much it, Martin. That's what's making news.
Devlin.
Yeah, the next rule.
The platform.
Shawn Marion, legend, 211 NBA champion, part owner of the Breakers. So happy to have him here in the country and so grateful that he gave us some minutes on the program today. Shawn Marion answering questions about the ANBL, the Breakers, and where the NBA is right now. Where do you rate this league in terms of the standard of the other leagues around the world outside of the NBA at the moment?
I would say it's probably second to third, right there, right behind it. I mean, it ain't many leagues better than the NBL. I think the NBL is smaller and compact. That's what makes it that much more talented. And you see it every year now. You're seeing a lot of guys getting drafted from here, from a lot of the teams.
In terms of, say, comparing it to the European leagues?
So, I haven't had a chance to. I've played against some European teams which are talented, but I mean, as of recently, the last 3 or 4 years, though, you're seeing more guys coming from NBA, coming from NBL going to NBA, or NBA coming to the NBL. You know what I'm saying? Versus going overseas.
What have you noticed about style-wise, the way that the league is played? Is it any different from the last time that you were here watching?
No, it's not. It's pretty much the same. I think, I like it, actually. I think it's a little bit more fundamentally sound. They definitely do pick and roll and stuff, but I've seen quite a few more. I'm seeing quite a few more highlights, too. It's a lot of more athletic guys doing certain things, but you're seeing the diversity of the game. You're seeing the growth of the game. I don't think the league here is as bad as the NBA is shooting threes, but we do shoot up a lot of threes in the NBL. But the scores are nowhere near as high as they are in the NBA.
So you've been a shareholder in the Breakers since 2018. What's the best thing about it? Why are you a shareholder, and what do you get out of it?
What I get out of it? Who wouldn't want to be an owner of a team? It's that simple.
Right.
I mean, it's awesome to be part of something that to feel welcome. I think when you're it's the different levels to everything we do in life, and when you're able to be a part of something that has a great tradition and great fan base, and it's a great, everything is great about the Breakers now. And being here in New Zealand, it speaks so many different levels too, and how special it is here, and the welcoming of everything here. It's just a beautiful place to come. Safest place in the world to live. I mean, you can say so much about just being here in New Zealand. It's just amazing.
Shawn Marion is with us. He's co-owner of the Breakers and, of course, number retired in the NBA and an NBA champion in 2011. What are your thoughts on the current state of the NBA?
As far as what? The growth or the game itself?
Yeah, the standards of the fact that the players all want to rest all the time, that they don't want to play as many games as you did for a start.
Things change. I think these guys are making more money than we did, of course, and they're some of them are playing less games. It's crazy, but the technology and the facilities that these guys have in the NBA is unreal. It's unreal. It's not even compared. You can't. The level of things that they have, their exposure is on a whole nother level. It's crazy. But with that being said, though, how can you? I'm not a big fan of resting, but if you're actually hurt, sit your butt down and get healthy. But if you're not, I played through minor injuries and stuff like that, and that's the difference in generations, though. It's some, everybody gonna have something to complain about, whether it's good or bad. It is what it is. Some things you just have to deal with and attack it the way it comes.
Shawn Marion with us on the platform. Shawn is a part owner of the New Zealand Breakers, as well as being an NBA championship winner 2011 with the Dallas Mavericks. We saw some amazing numbers put up yesterday. We saw Embiid with 70. We saw Cat with 62. Is that just the way the game is played at the moment? I suppose my question is the game better than when you were playing? Are the players actually individually that much better?
What I say this, listen, I think there's generation. Of course, the game is going to keep evolving. I think you see different things in different aspects of the game, but a lot of the talent that a lot of these guys have, a lot of us had it, so when we played in my generation, and some of the guys had it before that in other generations. And it's just part of it. I think the game's going to always keep evolving. And that's the best thing about this game itself. I think you're seeing it from the NBL standpoint, from being here, watching the game, and being a part of the game here. Any sport, everything evolves. And I think you always gonna have somebody that does something a little different than the next group, and the next group, and the next group, and so on. So that's the part of that's the great thing about playing sports. Somebody does something a little different, it helps elevate the game and makes it that much better.
Do you think they play enough defense, or as hard a defense as they should in the NBA as they did when you were playing?
Well, the game is so much faster now, and there's so many more possessions. Though, like there are some guys that do. At times when defense need to be present, it's definitely present. I've watched a lot of games, and I still watch games currently right now and go to the games and stuff. And when I say this, I said there are some guys who pride themselves in definitely being defensive stoppers, but the way the game is played now, and how fast it is. Guys are shooting threes at an alarming rate now. You got teams that are shooting 40 and 50 threes a game. So it's almost impossible for you to really guard that unless, some nights they hit them, some nights they don't. It's feast or famine. But when you're saying the inside, the interior, a lot of teams are not, a lot of guys don't post up anymore. So far as you seeing the defense that you see in the NBL here when guys are on the block and doing stuff like that, you don't see a lot of that. That's not the style of play in the NBA. And so you don't see that a lot anymore.
No, do you think the 3-point thing it's spectacular for the fans and everything else, but has it really improved the game that much as a spectacle?
Well, it makes the game that much faster, and the scores are ridiculous now. Look how fast you're getting a shot up within 3 seconds. 3 seconds on the clock. So that doesn't make the game that much more exciting or speeds it up. It makes these numbers, these 140, 130 point nights crazy. I mean, what else will,
The Mankad. Is it legit? Of course it's legit. It's in the rules. But every time it happens in any form of cricket at any level, it always causes so much controversy. The gentleman's game. What gentleman's game? You got sandpaper gate. You got sledging. I'm sorry, it's never been a gentleman's game, not since W.G. Grace picked up a bat. It's got cheating, it's got match fixing. The Mankad means you're trying to create an advantage by stealing a base. The bowler's whipping the bails off because you're out of your crease. What is the argument here? Andy Raymond Unfiltered. The Mankad incident last night, under 19, New Zealand playing Afghanistan. And look, it's a weird one because it is in the rules, and I also think that every player knows that they could be knobbed out by this. But every time it happens, it just causes such debate.
It does, and mate, to me, look, I think it's an ugly look. I really do. But to me, it's in the rules, and you're not there to make friends. So therefore, if I was just listening to what was being said, in regards to stealing bases, if there's a warning or a balking and the batsman at the non-striker's end is aware that you're aware that he's cheating, mate, second time round, I say fair game.
Do you even have to give a warning? Why do you have to give a warning?
Yeah, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to, but because it's somewhat of the grey area in sport, maybe the warning is the way to go. Maybe it's the gentleman's way to go in the gentleman's game of cricket. Who would have thought that the great Vinu Mankad back in 1947-48 would have created such a furor as we approach 80 years on?
All right, final question on this, just in terms of the legality of it. When it happens in baseball, if the pitcher has wound up for his action, he can't balk in his action, okay? He has to throw to base before he throws. So should that be the same in cricket? If you've even started your action, you can't stop your action and get him.
If you're good enough to disrupt your action, you're good enough to get him out. That's a talent.
Okay.
A talent in itself.
Yeah, okay. I agree. I actually agree with you because, I understand where Craig's coming from, but at the same time, to me, when you are defending 2 runs, that's all you're defending, then you getting an advantage by being out of your crease, I don't care whether it's an inch or half a mile out of your crease, that's your advantage. I'm going to take your bails off, simple as that. Speaking of cricket, Glenn Maxwell, what the hell is going on here? Andy, we all laughed and had a giggle when he fell off the golf cart because he was high-eyed at the One-Day World Cup, and no one said that he was, but there's only 2 ways you fall off a golf cart, if you're pissed, and the other way is if you're pissed. And then now he goes to a concert and he ends up in hospital. The guy obviously has a problem. I don't think anyone cannot connect the dots here. What is going on?
Everyone's connecting the dots, and Cricket Australia are playing a very, very straight bat with this. Cricket Australia currently no runs off about 148 balls. They will not even try connecting the dots. The rest of the society, the general sporting public, they had a giggle when Maxwell last year, maybe 18 months ago, had a mishap at a mate's birthday and went through a glass panel.
That was the other one. I was trying to remember. That's right. Yeah. An accident, of course, again. Yeah,
an accident. And at the time, he wasn't drunk. It was just one of those things. Then there was the golf buggy, and the golf buggy is funny because he fell out of a golf buggy in the middle of a World Cup. There's a punchline right there. But with the latest one, he's gone and played a corporate game of golf in Adelaide that I'm filthy that I wasn't invited to.
Yes.
He went and did that. He was out in the sun all day. He kept on going. He went to a concert that night. And then there's an issue. And all of a sudden, it's not a,
It's not funny anymore, is it? It's not a laughing matter anymore.
No, and it was, as I said, when he fell out of the golf cart. It's not a laughing matter anymore. It's a matter of, okay, it's time for some type of intervention. And that's not intervention by peers. It's time for Glenn to reassess where he's at, what his triggers are, what the problem is, and deal with it. Because take away all the positives about Glenn Maxwell and ambassador, cricketer, raking in money, superstardom. He's a young man who appears a little lost on the journey. He's having a few hiccups, and someone needs to step in. Someone needs to help.
Is it Australian cricket's responsibility? We were debating this yesterday. While he is still playing international cricket for Australia, I believe that it is, that they have to help.
Technically and legally, probably, because he's a contracted player, contracted to them. So employer-employee relationship would dictate that, they do need to offer any assistance or whatever the laws say that the assistance that may be able to help him. So yes, they are in control or culpable to a degree. But I think if I'm being honest with myself, it is up to Glenn.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
I think we all know what the number of SIFs... What is SIFs called these days? It's called another something else. But anyway, let's talk about the new prop for the Warriors, Wally, and what Andy Raymond unfiltered suggested to us just before we went to the news, that within the next few days, he reckons it's going to be a story out of Australia that these two are going to swap this year, and Adam Fanua-Blake will be off before the season starts. That would be disaster for the Warriors. The 1974 Commonwealth Games, the last of its kind, 50 years ago today it kicked off, although Dick Taylor has just texted me. He said he's going to come on the program tomorrow. He said it's tomorrow. So whether his memory is correct or whatever, the last couple of days, tomorrow. Anyway, 50 years ago, the last great Commonwealth Games. Is Christchurch really going to host the next Commonwealth Games? That old chestnut, the Mankad, a valid dismissal or not, Lachlan? Embiid, 70 points yesterday. Karl Anthony Towns, 62. Is it a better game to watch the NBA? I'll argue against it. The 2-point shot in netball. Now, this has been suggested by the Mainland Tactics coach. Brendan Telfer will talk more about it around about 3:30. Is it a good idea or not? Kalvin Phillips to West Ham. We're going to give you some stats on this guy who was such a promising midfielder and just completely vanished off the face of the football earth. Kicking though with the 1974 Commonwealth Games. The song was beautiful. We'll play the full version for you at the end of the show. Steve Allen, Alan Stevenson, owns a bookshop in Napier. This guy. We got to join together and then laughter fill the air. It's time for every race and creed. Okay. Dick Taylor, the 10,000 metres on the opening day. It's an absolutely brilliant story, heroic moment in New Zealand sport. Little Janie Parkhouse, Graham May doing the jelly wobble. Back in those days, Lachlan, the Commonwealth Games meant something because there was no World Championship, so you had the Olympics. And in between years, the Commonwealth Games was kind of like a de facto World Championship, even though, of course, the Ruskies couldn't enter, the Eastern Bloc couldn't enter, the United States couldn't enter. But still, you had world champion athletes performing and a lot of world records broken. It hasn't been like that for a number of years. Christchurch are not going to host the Games in 2030. There isn't even a Commonwealth Games in 2026. Remember, Australia's pulled out, the Gold Coast has pulled out. Yep. And that was after Durban pulled out.
Had it taken off them or something.
Birmingham don't want it again. Nobody wants it. Melbourne said no to it. I mean, come on, Christchurch. Stop being stupid. Do you honestly think that central government is going to give you the billions of dollars that you'd need to invest in this? The people of Christchurch, would you even want it? Would you rather have your roads fixed and the sewage smell stopped that permeates the eastern suburbs? Come on, Lachlan, give me a reality percentage here of Christchurch hosting those Commonwealth Games, and let's just end this.
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
Less than zero. The Commonwealth Games is dying for a reason. It's not relevant anymore. It's too expensive. 2030 would be the 100-year anniversary of it. Maybe they might have one final rah-rah. We'll talk to Brendan about this. I just can't even be bothered with the story. Kalvin Phillips. He signed for Manchester City from Leeds on the 4th of July 2022. Since that time, Manchester City have played 93 what they call competitive games: Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup, World Club Championship and so forth. How many times has Kalvin Phillips taken the field? Not started,
But just appeared.
Just appeared.
16
in 93 games.
out of a possible 93.
Now, he never played any of the Champions League major matches last year. He doesn't play any of the Premier League major matches. Those 16 games are League Cup matches. They might even be friendlies. He barely
Club World
laced
Cup.
his boots up for that side. Right, so now West Ham are going to get him on loan. We're going to ask Miles about this in about 20 minutes. Look, this is one of the real shames that has happened since Manchester City and the sovereign wealth funds have taken over football clubs. That they just go around, they buy all of these players, they spend millions of pounds, tens of millions of pounds on them, and they disappear and you never see them again. Kalvin Phillips was a really good player.
Very good.
Really good player. At the Euro Champs, which should have been in 2020, but was postponed because of COVID, and England got through and lost in penalties to Italy in the final. He was a really, really stand-out midfielder who dominated that tournament, right? What do you expect with him at West Ham? I'll just be amazed if he fronts for a start. My God, look at that guy.
Well, it depends
Kalvin
if
Phillips.
he plays. And the thing is, he's out of form because he's not playing. So he's
Remember,
probably,
he got fat?
Yeah, he got a bit chubby, didn't he? So he's probably out of shape still a little bit. But assuming he gets into shape and they actually play him, and David Moyes isn't an idiot, which is something he tends to be quite a bit, he stumbles his way into wins, doesn't he, in the league? I think with some game time he'll get back to his best, and then because there's I think at the end of the deal there's an option, because it's a loan deal. At the end of the loan there's an option for him to be bought by West Ham. Should that come through, he'll probably play there for a year, and then someone like Liverpool or Arsenal will come calling to
take him in a heartbeat.
sign him. You guys, mate, you guys could deal with him. Heck,
No, he won't come to us because his family hates, because they're old school Leeds fans who hate Man United so much that he just said that they would disown him, so he'd never come to us. The War of the Roses, it was back in the 1500s or something, some people never forget. That old chestnut called the Mankad. Now, Dre has texted back. He said, listen, you read my text all wrong. He said, I was actually agreeing with Craig Cumming. It shouldn't be part of the game. Well, I'll disagree with both you guys. That it is part of the game, and it is a valid way to dismiss an opponent who is trying to create an unfair advantage. Now, when you're only defending 2 runs like the Afghanis, I defend the fact that they pulled this, and without warning. You know, Lachlan, here's the crease, right? Here's the crease.
yeah,
You know if you're out of your crease as a cricketer, because you know you can get stumped if that's the case.
Yeah.
And if this young boy, 19, whatever he was for New Zealand, as Craig says, he looked a bit dozy, didn't know what he was doing. Well, in that case, what are you doing there, mate?
yeah.
It's a bloody World Cup, for God's sake.
He's a kid. He's
a kid.
under 19.
Yeah, okay, but
He's a child, mate.
but at the same time, he's played enough cricket to know that if he gets out of his crease...
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Look, I just think that, the shame about this is every time this happens, and it happened at the One Day Cricket World Cup. I can't remember if it was Bangladesh or Afghanistan pulled it. Yeah, one of those teams.
Well, it happened in the Ashes, didn't it?
That was different again. That's not a Mankad. That was the keeper got him, right? Because he'd wandered out of his crease.
One of the ones at the World Cup was that timing out thing, if that's what you're thinking of.
Ah, that was the timing out thing.
Yeah, I don't know if
but
it was
again,
a Mankad.
that's look, all of this is valid. It's in the cricket rules.
Yeah.
There's no niceties in professional sport. You're playing for a world championship. Afghanistan are defending 91 runs. The fact that they got even close to beating us is amazing.
Don't even anyone dare suggest that it breaks or it's not in the spirit of cricket.
So what is the spirit of cricket?
Cheating.
Sandpaper? Yeah.
Cheating. That's
Sledging.
Nasty people.
That's it. The
Scandals.
David Warners of the world.
Cheating.
That is it.
That's
is
what
cricket.
the spirit of cricket is.
Ever
Also,
since
just
W.G.
quickly,
Groves picked up a bat.
I reckon if you start the bowling motion, because if you watch the video, the guy, the Afghanistan bowler, starts the motion, then stops, and then does the Mankad. I don't like that. I think you can run up and then try and do it, or once you start your motion, you got to follow through with the bowl, because you've committed to the bowl in that sense. If you watch baseball,
Yeah, they're not allowed to, mate. They won't.
well, there's a term. What's the term when you throw to
Balking.
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 Okay. When you're pitching, you can throw to second or third or first or whatever to try and get one of them out if they're trying to steal a base. They don't wind up for the pitch and then do it. They just throw it. They try to catch them off guard.
The pitch, that's considered run. All right.
It should be like that.
Embiid got 70, Cat got 62, and the whole basketball world goes, because these guys are incredible. They're scoring so many points, and it's a record for Embiid. Look, I think Joel Embiid is a fantastic player. I'm not sure whether he's the best player in the league. I don't think he is.
No, he's not.
But when you watch the highlights of that, I started the show by saying I'm a grumpy old man. Yes, I am when it comes to this. I like watching defense in basketball. I love smothering defense. I love the fact that teams get stops, that they get on a run, that all of a sudden, that crazy series years ago, and you'll remember exactly when this was, mate, where the Houston Rockets should have knocked Golden State out, I think it was, and they missed...
Yeah, Game 7 in 2018.
37 three-pointers in a row or something like that, crazy like that at the end of it, okay? Because the defense was overwhelming, and they couldn't get inside. Joel Embiid is just basically having shooting practice. Look, he's got a record. People say, okay, well, Wilt the Stilt's records don't count either because...
He was the foot taller than everyone else.
Back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Look, it's in the books now. Embiid's got 70. I just don't know whether it's that great to watch. You went and watched a game of NBA basketball, right?
Yeah.
In Houston when you're overseas.
I've watched many games in my lifetime.
I've been to many games as well. I don't like 160 plays 158. I get as bored as snot by it, mate. I really do. If that's the game every game, I'm over it, right?
I do and I don't. I don't from the perspective because I love seeing teams on their offenses come up with these really cool set plays, and it's one thing that Golden State kind of revolutionised was off-ball screens and off-ball movement and whatnot, and having guys like Steph Curry being your best player in your team, but he sort of zips around the court and snakes around defenders, and all of a sudden he's not holding the ball much, and then hits a three in the corner. So I love that stuff. But I also love slugfests. I love physicality. Like, one of my favourite basketball games of all time is Game 7 of the 2010 NBA Finals between the Lakers and the Celtics. No one could hit a shot. There's elbows going everywhere. Guys are getting hit. And the Celtics led like 30-20 at half-time.
Great game.
I'm exaggerating, but it was a very low-scoring game. No one could hit any shots, and I really enjoyed that game. So,
okay, let's go back to 2016 when LeBron and the Cavaliers won, right? Okay.
Oh, no one could get a bucket at the last 5 minutes.
There you go, because the defence.
Except for Kyrie's three.
So, look, if all you want is a whole lot of guys standing by the three-point line and just hitting shots to see, well, watch the All-Star tournament then. Watch that then in that case.
In defensive teams and players now, it's really hard to up the defensive pressure without making contact that's called fouls. So you really, you look at a lot of those shots, defenders are sagging off and we're not making much contact or contesting the shots because they can't, because they'll be called for fouls.
I don't like it, mate. Finally, the two-point shot and netball. Now, here's me completely contradicting myself. I like the idea. You don't like the idea of this? Netball
Leave it alone. Leave netball alone.
Netball in this country needs something, mate.
It's dying. No, but it's not the rules of the game. It's dying because of our rubbish domestic competition.
It needs more excitement. It needs more Instagram. It needs more.
Hey, netball was all people talked about in 2019 after we won the World Cup.
Well, it's now 2023, mate.
I know, exactly.
No
because the Silver Ferns aren't playing well and we've got a rubbish domestic comp.
If you were a young girl in this country, you got a daughter in this country, and you were saying, okay, play sport, you could make a name for yourself, make some money. I'm throwing them a football. I'm throwing them a basketball. I'm handing them a cricket bat or a golf club, right? Why would you play netball? It's a fantastic sport, all of that. But you're not going to get rich playing it.
With the T20 leagues, I'd be playing cricket.
I'd say,
golf as well.
Yeah, there you go. Here's a cricket bat. Learn to hit it over the fence and you get yourself a whole pile of cash doing it. Joel Embiid, MVP, reigning MVP for the NBA. 70 points yesterday for the Philadelphia 76ers. It's a hell of a personal achievement. But what does it actually mean in the context of the season? And also, just in terms of the NBA, is it a better product when guys get that many points? I mean, I was watching a lot of the highlights. There weren't a lot of people guarding him. It was just more like a show reel. Oh, I can score from here. I can score from here. I can score from under here. I can flip it behind my head and do that. I don't want to be flippant about it. I don't want to take away from the man's achievement. But is it a better game to watch? Keith Pompey, beat writer for the Philly Inquirer, joins us. How big a deal is this?
I think it's a huge deal. I think that, when you're a guy like Joel Embiid who is an MVP candidate, you're the reigning, MVP candidate for this year, but he's a reigning MVP, and the 76ers are playing well. I think this is huge. Not only that, it's one of those things where, Joel right now is the present, but the guy that he won up against, Victor Wembanyama, is the future of the league.
And I think that this was a showcase game that everyone around the league witnessed, and they saw it. And this is a big deal because it's basically supplants Joel as the best player in the league. And not only that, it came against stiff competition. So, yeah, what I mean by stiff competition, I'm talking about Wembanyama. So this is a great deal for him, a huge deal.
Yeah, just on that individual matchup between those two, Webby gets 33 points, so not a bad effort from him. Is this just one of those nights for a player like Embiid where everything went right?
Yeah, you know what? I think so. I think it worked well for him. But at the same time, it's one of those things where, you know, if you look at Joel Embiid, he's averaging 36.1 points in basically 3 quarters. I mean, he's always had dominant, performances, but it was just a matter of, like, he wasn't, like, in the flow like he was, like you said, everything going right. So it's not like you didn't think that he could score 50 or maybe 60 points, right? Because he scored 59 last year and he had 54 this year. So it's kind of like one of those things where, you know, yeah, everything went right, but I also think that he was able to impose his will against that team that was a little bit, undersized outside of Wemby.
Keith, watching him, and this is what I always love about sport, watching the post-match interview, the questions put to him and how he reacts. He was so circumspect about it. He played it down. He was talking, as always, as he does, about the team, about the performance, about where the 76ers are, about what they need to do, about where they might be at the end of the season, kind of deflecting attention away from himself. You've spent a fair bit of time around him. Is that the guy? Is that the genuine guy?
Yeah, but he's a team player. He's mature. He's maturing. But at the same time, I think he's downplaying it. Like, this meant a lot to Joel Embiid. Like, him getting 70 points meant a lot to him. Like, I think Joel knows that, he wants to be a Hall of Famer, right? And he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But Joel Embiid is a competitive guy. He wants to be one of the all-time greats. Now, I think publicly, if Joel Embiid comes out and says, look at me, I scored 70 points, but yet and still he can't lead his team out of the second round, it's going to be frowned upon. So right now he knows that he has to be a great teammate, a great team player. His team, regardless of what he does now, he's going to be ultimately judged by what they do in the playoffs. So with that being said, I feel like, Joel Embiid is putting things a little bit in perspective, but trust me, Joel Embiid went home last night, did a fist pump, was extremely excited about it. Don't let the public downplaying fool you.
Right.
This is a major thing for him.
He did it on the anniversary of when Kobe hit 81, 2006 against the Raptors as well. He said he idolised Kobe as he was growing up and came into the league and all of that kind of thing. One of the peculiarities about this is that when you look at all of the others that have achieved this, most of it was done back in the 60s. There was Thompson did it in the 70s. Kobe did it, almost 20 years ago now. But Lillard, Mitchell, Devin Booker, and now Joel, all doing this in the modern way that the game has played. How important is that to bring into the conversation as well? Is it easier? I suppose that's what I'm trying to ask. Is it easier now to produce a performance like this and get a points total like that?
I think it is. I mean, a little bit. And the reason why I'm saying it is because if you think about it, they changed the rules. The league is now they're scoring a lot of points. It was funny. Greg Popovich, the coach for the Spurs, was talking about yesterday how, back in 2004, the games were ugly. Like, they were low scoring, they were this and that. Now the league likes the up-tempo pace. They like a lot of scoring. I mean, when you think about it, last night, Joel Embiid had 70 points, but Karl Anthony Towns had, 62, from the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, that just tells you how the scoring is up now. There's a lot of points, a lot of, pace of the game. Teams are scoring more points. So which leads to individual performers, like a guy who can score like Joel is going to score more points, and the same with Karl Anthony Towns. So, yes, I will say it's a little bit more easier than it was 20 years ago.
As a man who's spent, again, a fair bit of time covering this, and look, I've been doing sport here in New Zealand for over a quarter of a century now. I'll admit I'm a bit of a grumpy old guy when it comes to sport. Look, I like defense in basketball. As far as baseball goes, I don't want to go and watch a game that's 17-16. Every now and again, that's okay, a home run derby or whatever. But I like a pitching duel as well. And there are a lot of fans like me that think, 133, 123. Well, where the hell's the guy guarding the basket?
Yeah, there's a lot of fans, but you know what? Unfortunately, you believe it or not, like guys get recognized by fans by the guy who scored 70 points. Like the guy who gets like 8 blocks or guys who gets 5 steals, rarely do they get the recognition, right? I mean, so I feel like as a fan, I'm with you. I'm that guy. I like seeing the defense. But the fans, they get in and they like seeing a lot of, up and down. It's kind of like, I hate to say it, in track and field, they love the 100-meter runner, right? The sprinter. They don't really care about the person who ran 3 miles or 2 miles. They care about the sprinter. They don't care about the pole vaulter. Yeah. They care about the sprinter. So I think that's that analogy. It scoring points sells, and it just seems like they're the ones who make all the money in the league too. The leading scorers.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Blah, 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 blah. Miles Davis. We're going to play you the message on his answer phone. And I don't know whether or not this is HRable, but I don't think in this day and age it's appropriate. Let's talk to Miles about Kalvin Phillips, who is joining West Ham. He's pretty much been invisible for the last couple of years. Another great big money signing for Man City. Played 16 games or appeared 16 times in the last 93 matches for that club. That's not starting. That's just appearances on the pitch. Hardly ever gets to play. Celebrated like he'd won the treble himself last year. Now he's on loan to West Ham. We've got a lot to talk about. Miles.
Busy torturing my children at the moment. Be quiet off while you're ghoulies to the bones and leave a message.
Your message on your phone where you're torturing your children, have you ever had any official complaints about that?
No. I would have done that, God knows, about 15 years ago. I put that in there and I've forgotten what the password and CBA and changing it. So I keep getting Erin Dawes keep saying, you've got to change that message. But I don't, I think a little implicit threat of gratuitous violence towards the children. I think from memory I say something about wiring their ghoulies to the mains or something.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it is. Actually, on a serious note, though, about this, or the same department store, different floor, I've been interested in your reaction to those so-called Knicks fans thinking they're giving it all the large and heavy and thinking they're some kind of ICF hooligan mob attacking the Melbourne lot.
It's pathetic, absolutely pathetic. But as you know, there's some fantastic supporters in the Phoenix mob. But there's also a load of socially inadequate twats who are just looking for somewhere to belong. And I'd put those amongst that lot. I can't imagine the decent. In fact, I saw some posts from Yellow Fever just basically condemning those fans. They do everything. They connect. They've got connections with fans from all the other A-League clubs. They try and give them a good day out when they it's an expensive trip across the Tasman as well.
Of course.
And they try and make it a really good experience. And I think that they're commended by most of the other fan groups. So it's really disappointing to see that. Frankly, I wish the Melbourne fans had been able to turn around and give them a slap, because that's probably what they deserve.
One other football topic to talk about, Kalvin Phillips, who, a couple of years ago at the World Tournaments, one of the not only best midfielders in England and Europe. I mean, this guy was just, your box-to-box player, strong in the tackle, could keep the ball, win the ball, all of that. He leaves from Leeds for Man City and essentially just disappears. I mean, he was celebrating all their trophies last year, but he didn't play. Now, you're about to sign him on loan. Do you think he can actually remember what a football looks like?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only... I mean, he'll be training week in, week out with those guys anyway. I know he had a period out with injury, but he's a top signing. I think most sides in the Premier League would have taken him on loan.
Yeah, no question.
If they could have had the opportunity. My only concern is that Moyes puts him in instead of Souček. If he puts him in and Souček's still in the side, that misses someone else. That means someone else more worthy is going to miss out, and that's my only concern. But he'd be a great signing and probably just what we need at the moment. Although we do need a striker. We do need a striker. I mean, we were desperately pushing for the game against Sheffield United the other day, and he took off a striker and brought on a fullback. So you can't, against the side bottom of the table. Just, farcical. But anyway, it is what it is, as the old saying goes.
113 minutes. That's what the fast was, mate. I mean, that game took 2 days. How can you tack on that much time at the end of a football game? Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's 103.
All
but,
right.
But anyway, it was a ridiculous amount. But the worst thing is the 2 penalty decisions. One given, one not given. The one that given, I don't know if you've seen that.
I never watched it. Yeah.
Foul by Areola. That's never a foul in the 1,000 years. In fact, if anyone should get done, it should be McBurney for flinging his elbow into the goalkeeper's face. The keeper has to go off injured through no fault of his own. And then a rugby tackle on Bowen in the other area doesn't even get looked at. It's like the most blatant penalty you ever see, not given. And VAR, I'd much rather play without it. But just, let's be consistent. If you're going to have it, give the right decision. It's a joke.
All right, finally, Owen Farrell, then 112 tests for your beloved England side. He's off to Racing at 92. He took a mental break anyway for international rugby. But you got the same rules that we have, mate, where if you're playing outside the country, you can't represent England again. Are you happy about this, or should they rewrite the rules for this dude?
I don't think they should rewrite them for him, but I've been saying for donkey's years that you should do it. And I don't think it's... like New Zealand should be doing it. The squeeze has gone on their finances so much. They've neglected the lower, forms of the game, the lower levels of the game, and they focus purely on the All Blacks because it's so expensive to keep them all here now. Why not let someone else pay the bulk of their wages? The standard of rugby up in the Northern Hemisphere now is massively improved on the old.
Well, it's superior. Those comps are superior to ours, Miles. Let's just acknowledge that the English comps, even the URC, I believe, is superior to Super Rugby these days.
Well, that's debatable. But the fact is it's not an inferior product. So your players are not going to lose. In fact, they'll probably gain something. If you can get a blend of players that are playing up there, learning different things from different coaches, playing in different environments, that's got to be helpful for your side. The biggest issue you've got, which England have got as well, is making sure that you get your players for the internationals. And that's where the but I don't think they should. I think Farrell's had his day. I love Marcus Smith. I've always been basically like I like my football to be attacking. I want my rugby to be attacking. I like flair players like that. I like the Paul Kellys. I like the Carlos Spencers. I enjoy those type of players, the Stuart Barneses. I want the players to be attacking. So I'd rather have Marcus Smith there than Owen Farrell. But I do think the rules should change both down here and up there.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.